When the CEO of JP Morgan Chase sounds the alarm, the financial world stops to listen. Jamie Dimon is a highly pragmatic, data-driven navigator of global capital. When he starts signaling distress, we are looking at a serious shift in the global order. Historically, the United States has faced severe, isolated crises, a market crash here, a foreign conflict there. This isolation gave our political and monetary systems enough bandwidth to absorb the shock, adapt, and eventually recover. But that bandwidth is completely maxed out. Dimon is currently warning that the U.S. is facing the highest concentration of concurrent risks we have seen in 80 years. Looking at this network map, you can see the scale of the problem. We have massive, independent threat nodes activating all at once: the threat of nuclear weapons, Russian aggression, a looming private credit crisis, $34 trillion in unsustainable U.S. debt, and mounting friction with China and Iran. Rogue artificial intelligence, large-scale cyber vulnerabilities, and extreme domestic political dysfunction now inject into the matrix. Notice how these new elements drastically multiply the connective lines between every existing node. At the center of all this is a deeply fractured American political system. We have a paralyzed legislature tasked with managing these compounded, highly technical crises all at the exact same time. Traditional Washington bureaucracies are built for linear, isolated problems. They are mathematically unequipped for a systemic crisis where 10 independent threat factors all activate simultaneously. To understand how these nodes interact, let's look at the geopolitical baseline. We have active Russian aggression in Europe, immediate risks of war escalation with Iran, and the continuous, heavily armed friction with China. These foreign conflicts do not exist in a vacuum. They put massive strain on global supply chains and markets, hitting an American economy that is already staggering under the weight of an unsustainable national debt and a looming private credit crisis. Then we add artificial intelligence to the mix. AI will certainly displace a large number of American workers in the medium term, but its immediate danger is as a threat multiplier. It takes existing geopolitical friction and gives bad actors the tools to scale their attacks instantly. Dimon highlighted an unreleased AI model called Mythos. It is currently walled off from critical infrastructure, but if adversaries gain access, defensive walls fail. Hostile states can weaponize AI to bypass security, turning digital espionage into the large-scale collapse of financial networks and grids. Rogue AI removes the geographic and financial barriers to global warfare. A hostile nation no longer needs to deploy physical troops to cripple an adversary. They can turn existing economic tension into asymmetric cyber devastation with a few keystrokes. You might wonder why these cascading threats aren't sparking a massive, coordinated response. The answer lies in our psychological blind spots. We have a tendency to let these risks metastasize right out in the open. Time and time again, we see a recurring pattern where governmental institutions and elites intervene. Dimon actually points to the Jeffrey Epstein case as the prime micro-case study for this macro-level failure. Following Epstein's 2008 sweetheart plea deal, the government and high society knew exactly what he was doing. Dimon notes that people fully understood the magnitude of his abuses, but they willingly ignored them just to maintain their status in the inside club. This willful institutional blindness is a fatal vulnerability. If our leaders are willing to ignore explicit, documented abuse to preserve their social order, they are practically guaranteeing a catastrophic escalation when faced with complex, multi-trillion-dollar global threats. The mechanism of relying exclusively on elected officials to navigate multi-trillion-dollar existential risks has stalled. The current political machine is operationally broken. Instead of actually governing and neutralizing these threats, Washington spends its energy annihilating its own members for short-term partisan gain. This creates a very dangerous leadership vacuum. Dimon's core thesis is completely clear. American business leaders have to step into the civic arena right now. Society's problems will not be fixed by politicians alone. Yet a profound corporate cowardice is preventing this shift.
Many CEOs are terrified to speak honestly to the public, paralyzed by the fear of political blowback or of upsetting polarizing figures like Donald Trump. Despite all these compounding dangers, Dimon maintains a highly pragmatic baseline of optimism. As this image of our strategic defenses reminds us, the United States commands the most prosperous economy and powerful military apparatus in human history. We have the tools to manage this, but having the tools means nothing if we refuse to use them. Navigating the highest peak of concurrent risks in 80 years requires the private sector to shed its fear, step up, and actively confront uncomfortable realities before the system collapses.